This is your corner on Fifth. Good morning, Lydia. Did you struggle to get going this morning, or were you off to a jump start?
Morning.
Oh,
Well, let's just say for some reason, well, my daughter's in her body's saying that there's something happening. So I started waking up already 5:30,
oh,
which
okay.
is
So that's
way
early.
earlier than usual. Yes. And
Yeah.
she told us a joke, if I could say it very quickly. I know I shared this on the family group. Her dad said to her, Isla, does Isla have a nasal drip and postnasal drip? And her response to her dad was, no, it's at home. So
He's thinking of the inhaler.
uh, I don't know what was in her mind. So that's been our morning.
Oh no, no. This is a humorous note to start on. If you can start with some humor, then I think you're A for away.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Okay. Well, Lydia, let's continue our discussion. We're going to look at this morning. Look at the next one on our list. We looked somewhat at cognitive science, just the first one, what it means to embody thinking, embodied knowing in 6E cognitive science. So we have not gone any deeper than that. But this morning we want to look at a phenomenon that you know quite well. Should I say you know it very well? And it comes out of the area of your and my understanding of uh, wisdom. We've often chatted about that back and forth, and we've seen that there was a need for a tool. I created a tool many, many years ago called the Order of the Owl. And I use the owl because in Western culture, an owl speaks of wisdom. We talk about a wise old owl. We talk about, we associate the owl with sometimes with scariness and woo woo sort of mystery and mystique. But we used a tool with you guys called the Life Skills Portfolio. Just talk to us a bit about what you understood that tool to be, because we made it as fun as possible. But before we go there, talk to us about this way of doing that we were engaged in.
Yeah. I think if, what I can remember is being given a book and it was like a workbook. Um, and Levi and I would sit and you would work through it with us, but you were more of the guide, the term I guess you could use as a facilitator, saying, this is what's in front of you. I remember one of the examples was the life plan that you put, we had to think through. We had a timeline and you had to think about the first year in terms of where you'd like to be. And then we had different sections of life, your family life, where you want to be in your community. There were things that we worked through in terms of Proverbs, turning certain verses into a visual to help us to understand what do we see, what are we reading, what do we understand by it. So yeah, just different
Oh, I
activities to
like that,
kind of,
the fact that you remember the Proverbs kind of into it, because the tool was really based on the wisdom literature in the Old Testament. And I started working very early with developing a tool I could use with you as my children. Um, and I ordered it according to age groups. I just don't have one for 0 to 3, which I want to create now for our first grandchild, for your child. And but from 4 to 6 and all the way through into adulthood, I've created tools that could be used um, that grows out of the wisdom literature of the Old Testament. And the reason I went there was because Hebrew wisdom has a very well framed, watch, I'm using the word framed, um, learning process, right? With the heart being in the home, the heart of instruction and discipline, right? Da'at, chokhmah, umasar are three Hebrew words. One means knowledge, da'at, chokhmah, wisdom, and umasar, discipline. And so I grappled very early with why is it that we go to everything else outside of the scriptures to train our children? We go to the Greek models, we go to the British models, the Prussian models, and boy, oh boy, and we walk right by the Bible, right by it, and give it a pat on the head. And the more I went into it, I became so fascinated with what the five Hebrew wisdom books were all about. And then I started working with this frame coming out of the book of Proverbs. You remember the Proverbs. What kind of stood out for you from the Proverbs now that we're on it? How are Proverbs different than stories? How
They're
are Proverbs?
shorter. They were
Oh, a lot
shorter. I
shorter.
mean,
One liners,
that
right?
already is like, yeah, yeah. And I think, I mean, I remember, because I was like, so, I couldn't understand why you'd spend so much time prepping us from that beginning part to try and explain chapter one.
Mm.
And as we've gotten older, you would go back to that as well, because that set the premise for how everything else unfolded. But I think really one of the things that really stuck out for me was how short it was, which I think is good for attention span and getting you into it. And there was no, I want to say you were prompting us, but it's not like you were going into origins of words and doing, it was like, this is just write out or draw out what you see. What do you understand by what's being told to you? And then those pictures and that association and oh, this is now and it started creating in our minds our understanding of it for the level that we, if you think about it, so complex but so basic, of our understanding of words and meaning, association, because that's all part of learning, and putting that together and saying, oh, because
Right.
out of that that became conversation, right? Because I think that was part of prepping years for getting into the high school and puberty, and then I remember, going into that dating and already being set up, if you will, with tools to say you need to think about this before you enter into that space. That was really, I mean, we were really set up for, yeah, this is coming your way and you need to think about it, because when you're in it, it's very difficult to make certain decisions. So it's just amazing how, sure,
Yeah.
we were
I,
really
I
set
like
up.
that what you're saying. Oh, I wish I could cap, but I have it on audio now. I would love for you to repeat that. This is what's coming your way. So you better think about it now, because once you're in it, it's a lot harder to make the good decision, right? I think that is so well said. I couldn't say it better than that. And I worked on three levels of tools coming out of the 31 chapters of Proverbs, 915 Proverbs. First nine chapters being sort of a full story, 12 poems that hang together. And then from chapter 10 onwards, you get your clusters of Proverbs and one liners. You get into the later Proverbs, they're one liners. And they are tough stuff and hard stuff to chew on. You remember? I always said to you, I will read a proverb a million times and still don't get it. And only later on that proverb clicks, because proverbs have a way of. I, I think one of the reasons I chose it was because proverbs have a way of shaping imagination. They are food for imagination because they function at the imagination level. Because you can make decisions in your head, in your imagination, you can create scenarios and stories and make decisions long before you get into it. And that's why I loved it, because it was really an imagination enhancer or creator. And you remember how the books, I've still got them, they are pictures. Each section of the Proverbs, each cluster, proverb cluster, has a picture tied to it, if you remember. I had a
Sure.
picture sort of that went with it, and then you had to summarize it, give it a title. Yeah, I've still got it. And I would have loved to have seen this tool be used a lot wider, but I think people have such a low view of the scriptures that when you come and talk about education, the last place they go is the Bible. It's like Jordan Hall saying, the Bible and Christianity was there all the time, but I never gave it a second look, because that's not where you look when you are wrestling with cognitive, heavy thinking issues, such as civilizations, such as Bitcoin, such as AI. And he said, the day it dawned on him, but this is it, and here it is. He felt, I have a lot stronger descriptor for him, but he probably felt like such an idiot for not having gone there first. But he had to walk a journey first, and almost like Solomon, exhaust every other option, every other ism, from scientism to Marxism to communism to whatever ism, and then come back into the scriptures and only to discover, here's the answer right on the ground in front of me. And I think that's what I see in education and school as well. I would love to have seen this tool, because we spoke to one of the schools in the area about using it. And then that's even before schools brought in the life skills portfolio. I mean, it was non-existent. The portfolio idea didn't pervade anything in education. I can't even remember the year now, but I'll figure out the year. But I spoke to the school about it long before the education department even came up with the idea. Because then there was this craze. Every child must have a portfolio, Well, that idea has pretty much just died. It's pretty much just died. And here we're back at it. And so you would say that that tool was part of shaping you for what was to come. But it was done in a very creative way, right? You mentioned not being forced to do it, but being guided to do it. Talk about some of the tricks that your dad was so clever at using to get you to learn things.
I
I
think
won't
it
give the
was.
game away.
I don't remember all of it. I'm sure. I mean, you were intentional about it. I think that was the big thing. So for us, it was, you know, the expectations were clear. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do it together. We're going to sit at the table. But you're going to have to think. You're going to have to bring yourself to it. I think
And you
for
guys were
us, it was
very
like,
cooperative. I
yeah,
mean, when I
we just
taught you
got
the
on with it.
storyline through
Yeah.
the Hebrew Christian scriptures, I used Smarties, if you can remember.
I was gonna say that's right, right. The Smarties for me sticks out a lot, and I always joke because I say how Levi managed his Smarties and how I managed our Smarties were like day and night, because I'd finish my Smarties quick. I don't even know how that happened, and he'd always have, and then it was like, no, Levi, just share. Meanwhile, I mean, I didn't manage mine, but yeah, that was a big one, because now and I think we actually enjoyed it as much as we didn't want to sit down, and now we're doing it again, and it's another time. But when you got into it, you wanted to engage. It was like, yes, I know this answer. And then I want to say you got smart. You got smart on us, because it was like, now that we knew the answers for that, particularly the Eagles view, then you'd flip it around. Do you remember? Instead of just waiting for us, or us waiting to respond to that answer, you'd say,
Yeah.
okay, leave out the phrase and give us the answer. And because we knew the narrative and how this worked, because we'd been going through it so much, you had to, and it was engagement, because we had to pay attention and listen. So now you're like, oh, I can't just be a robot, just sitting here and my brain is switching off. I had to pay attention and be present in the moment, which also says a lot about learning, capturing curiosity. You're not just going to sit there and now go, you know, um, be a passive participant. So yeah, that's what I enjoyed with that. Those Smarties were the
Yeah,
best.
I think I thought I need to look at ways of captivating you. And I used every trick in the book, and you guys enjoyed it, Now, long afterwards, you would figure out, yeah, but this is like the carrot on the stick. Yeah, it was the carrot on the stick. It's like, you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. But you can salt the oats. Yeah, so
I
in a
think one
sense,
thing yeah, like one thing that we could say, it would be interesting to have Levi also on this and hearing his, but I think it would be similar because you knew what you were doing in your family and you felt like you were the only one doing it because nobody else was engaging. Well, it's not like we said to our friends, this is what we're doing, but when we were in certain settings, and let's just make your, the assembly, and we call it Sunday school, and you're walking through certain things. Levi and I were, this isn't new. We knew the story, we knew where it fitted. So it's amazing, even when we were in those moments going through, I remember very clearly, I don't want to say I had the answers, but I came because I had a framework, I had a context already. So how they were moving through it for me was like, oh, that's great, that's where it is, this is where it falls in. And then as I got older, I could see the grander picture also altogether. You start to be like, oh yes, that's where it fits. This is where we're going to next. This is how you. So I mean, it's such a powerful tool to have. That's your left, right there, zooming in and zooming out. Having the bigger picture, but focusing on the details and the smaller things, while also remembering there's a bigger thing. So, yeah, yeah.
Well, I think my fascination with wisdom literature was so I saw the versatility of wisdom and how it can work out in one's life, And of course, the closest to me was you guys, my children. And I thought, before I can give it off more broadly in another context, do it in the home, you know. And it's still something I would love to see being used a lot more widely, just because, again, it's one thing to say we have a high view of scripture, it's another thing living it and honoring it is another ball game. You see, I think your the way you live it out shows your level of commitment to the scriptures. You know, so yeah, so I'm looking forward to creating a step down tool now. Call it a step down for Isla, but to utilize the world as the classroom. The world is the classroom. Now, classroom again is a very constrictive, refining, constraining word. Uh, but I don't use it in that way. I'm just saying the world is your academy. It's a learning space. That's why a colleague of mine called his organization Learning Academy Worldwide, because this space is worldwide, as wide as the world. Well, even bigger than the world, the cosmos. So for me to go into it for Isla's level would be quite something. But maybe it's something we could do together over a month or so, because Isla's 2 already, and so she's just got another year, then she's 3, right? So we'll have a year to field test it. But to have it wide enough that it captures that child, the running in the park, making everything as strategic, intentional as you possibly can, almost as natural as you can, because that's how they learn the best, isn't it?
Yeah.
With their natural bent and their natural, yeah. Um, Lydia, in closing, what would you say is the single takeaway for you of having been exposed to the wisdom literature in a tool like that? Because that was just a tool that framed it in a way that was, connecting with you guys. Any concluding comments you want to make? Or,
Sure. I think it helped me to already start considering that there's purpose and meaning,
mm, mm,
and my decisions are part of that purpose and meaning.
mm,
Because I was already challenged at a young age to think through, what am I doing? Who am I doing it
yeah.
for? What have I been
Mm,
given? I
mm,
mean, really, you really can. I mean, I look at Isla, and yes, she's young, but these kids are thinking deeper than you realize. They're
mm,
learning so quickly. So for me, that was the one part of that was also that what stands out for me is that dating element. Um,
mm.
when we were talking about the progression of the physical, and when the romantic part,
Yes.
when we started talking through that, I mean, I'm just looking back and going, "Whew, what a protection." To again, not overexpose, but it was part of preparation.
Yeah.
Because those are tough years, and different phases have different things. So I think you don't realize how much protection comes in.
Mm, mm, mm. And I think to be able to give parents tools like that, you know, because the kids don't know, they haven't seen the world, and they're going to into a world that is becoming more and more brutal by the day at every level. And boy, if you don't have, you know, some good some good fortitude built into your bones, I mean, that stuff just pretty much takes you out. So, Lydia, I appreciate your input here. Um, we're gonna have to peg away in a time over the next while, because it's easy for me to pull it together, but I think I need to look at more what is appealing for from 0 to 3. Well, just about everything, but to have a way of capturing it, you know, in a sort of a putting it into a frame that an Eilerite can grab it. That's where I'm struggling, and it's a good struggle to have, because I think, you know, salt the oats. You know, salting the oats makes them thirsty. How do you salt the oats for Eiler? Because you ain't there yet. You know, it's one thing for dads to say, "I'm going to lock this girl up until she's 40." That ain't gonna happen. So what are your other alternatives,
Yeah.
right? And I think the best a parent can do is to arm that child uh, with a frame of reality that is real. That gets as close to reality as is possible. Yeah, so that when things come down, they don't get a skrick. So, oh, okay, this is part of the deal, you know. And not in a sense the sooner the better, but I think of how the Hebrew child, the Hebrew boy is nurtured by age 12. When he turns 13, he's a man of duty. In Western culture, our kids stay adolescents for the rest of their lives, man. They don't grow up. You know, and you wonder why we got such lame, lame kids on the block. But be that as it may, we want to speak hope into the situation. So, Lydia, let me let you go and be about your business. But thank you for your time. And till the next time, have a good day, Liz.
Thanks for the memory lane time, Dad. Today was good.
Good, good.
Thanks.
Okay, Liz. Goodbye for now.
Cheers.
This is your corner on Fifth.